So I don't know if we fixed it. Yeah, we haven't fixed it to update for everything else.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, so just in the, when you present it,
no, yeah.
just start off from.
Okay.
Do you want the background history too, or not?
You can, if you want, but not necessarily, it's up to you. You have 20 minutes, right? I won't go any deeper than this.
So when we presented last time, it was like right before we left, so we didn't get to do a lot.
You can do any way you want, right? You have 20 minutes, and you can stand there, spend the first 2 minutes on just giving us, the entire background, right? How the same, if you want.
So for this is the segmentation of the workforce, so the sales is 85%, or the service technicians bring in 85% of all the service work, and they're compensated based on sales.
Yeah.
The commercial technicians and the office employees bring in about 15% of the sales that come into the company, but they're based on hourly, not based on their sales. And then management is me and the owners.
So simple, but a good segmentation of workforce, right? So, we saw Alex and Ben and their team, their segmentation was more complex. This one is simple but effective. I mean, there are like only 2 types. This is a smaller company, and you don't have complex structures when you have smaller companies. So this is great. Okay.
So we were trying to get their objectives in here. What we'll see on the improvements, we kind of think they need better objectives. To increase revenue, they have weekly sales goals. They try to tell them not to do less than 3,000 expected for, and then if they get 5,000 or above, they get a bonus each week up to 4 weeks, and then it starts over again, and you'll see that on the other slide.
Yeah.
Customer satisfaction for customer retainage, again, a little bit weak. They don't do every customer to see what they're retaining. It's more based on customer satisfaction and the customer happy calls and first time fix. No real tracking of repeat customers and that per se, but it's more just, do they call in and say they had good service, and basically they do this to help reduce their warranty or FOC fees free of charge callbacks.
Good.
And then average resolution time. So again, this is kind of weak, I feel like, because it's based on management being electricians themselves. So they gauge whether or not the technician's being productive on the job based on what they expected. So for this example, we just used one of the examples for a panel change. Expected time is 8 hours.
So that where you have the word customer retainage,
Mm-hmm.
I would just use the word customer retention.
Retention.
Okay.
I have a question real quick.
Yep.
Am I just reading it wrong? Because I'm wondering why your expected and max times are higher than the min. If to me, I'm thinking a shorter amount of time would be better, not a longer.
Yeah, but sometimes when you're doing a job, if they're taking less time,
It's
it's worse because they're not doing the full job and scope of work. So
So we do
they're
have-
just running through
yeah.
it really quick. It's not always a good thing that they're doing less time.
Mm-hmm.
We do it in my business too. If somebody's taking 20 minutes when we tell the customer we're expected to take 4 hours to do the job, that doesn't look good either.
Yeah, it looks really bad on the company.
And on average, techs should be taking the same amount of time per job. The only time, like we have outliers, like if it's bad weather or stuff like that, or they run into other issues, then you definitely are gonna have more hours.
No, I think you bring up a really good point, which is, see, these are,
So that was really hard to do though, because it really depends on the job.
no,
So-
what she's asking you to do,
No, I know, yeah.
is she's saying flip flop the min and the max, where you have efficiency, the average for resolution time.
But then,
Minimum should be 6 hours and maximum should be, the min and max words can be slightly misleading, but what you're trying to say is, listen,
You don't wanna take less than 3 hours. Or
no,
more, less than 3 hours.
So what you're saying is that you expect them to do it in 4 hours,
Yeah.
but we really want, stretch goals are do it in 3 hours.
Okay,
And then, so if you change the max to stretch,
okay,
okay, then that would make more sense. So stretch, expected, and then least expected, which are minimum expectations.
Yeah.
That would, if you think in your head or change, change the
verbiage at the top.
the
Just a
labels
different
out.
header for that one.
Right, maybe that'll make more sense.
Okay.
Right, but she's right, I mean, the max
Yeah, that
is,
makes sense, yeah.
Yeah,
good catch.
So I know one thing we need to add in here is that it's only for the, service field techs, so we put in the field, so it's service fields, that's what we're mentioning. But for the service techs are the only ones that get paid on sales. They get paid on a compensation plan, which you see, there's no base pay. If you don't sell anything that week, you don't get paid anything.
So think about it, right? So now here you have lot of options to give ideas, right? So do you think this is the right way to pay people based on tenure?
So I told my group this, and I'll tell you this as well. We used to have a base pay, and the technicians used to baby the base pay. They wouldn't work as hard, so this past 6 months, they took the base pay away, and since sales have been up.
No, so I'm not talking about the compensation. So that's fine, I mean, if there's no base wage, that's a great idea. However, the question that I have is, you're paying them based on tenure.
correct.
You're not paying them based on, let's say I'm one.
Skill level person.
Yeah, you're not paying them based on the productivity. I mean, the people should be incentivized to work more. So I might be like, and I have folks in my team who have been with me for like 1 to 2 years, and they're out producing guys who have more than, so here like.
So
Maybe
it's not
improvement
strict
then.
with the 1 to 3, 3 to 4, 5 plus years.
I
If you
mean-
have, like, there's master electricians and there's just a normal electrician. You go master electrician, you automatically start at 25%. But this is just the general, well, we only have one master electrician. So it wasn't even like, cause it's really hard, you have to be an electrician for 20 years to get a master status.
Right, so think about.
I get what you're saying, I'm just not sure how we could put that when it doesn't, that's like the rarest possibility.
The thing that I'm trying to say here is that really the person who brings in the most money to the farm is the king.
Mhm.
All compensation plans, they reward the person who's bringing in the most money based on the revenue they're bringing in. It's not based on tenure. I mean, tenure can have an override if retention is an issue.
So that's where the incentives come.
I wanna say for his point, you could just add that for like a ways.
Improvements,
Improvement,
correct, that's what I was
improvement.
thinking,
That's
just
how they
add
do
that as an
things.
improvement, a better way.
Well, because.
Just
no,
because they work there
explain it.
4 years, they automatically get 22%, not because they work harder, just because they've been there longer.
Yeah.
So you wanna like incentivize them more on, the better you do, the more compensation you
Yeah,
get.
you gotta think the business way, right? You're
No,
challenging.
I don't think it's just clicking, so I'll have her explain it later, cause it's just not clicking, I'm sorry.
Eat some more pizza, it'll help.
No, I've been up since 4 AM, I had to drive to West Palm Beach for inventory today, that's one of my separate recommendations for this company.
Well, you didn't bring the pizza from West Palm Beach though.
That would have been a really long drive, it would have been cold.
That was some cold ass pizza.
Not a good incentive.
Okay, keep going, good.
Performance pay, again, like we said, field techs are strictly commission based, so no base pay, no guarantee, and no cap.
Yeah.
Compensation is based on items sold or their sales and revenue based, based on the sales they made and not penalized if they, have discounts for the customer or not, so it's on the total sale minus the discounts.
So look here, right, so here you're saying it's compensation based, but your ladders are based on the number of years with the farm.
Correct, but it's based on, like, if they make 10,000, it's about the sales, how many sales they bring in, so
Yeah, so
on average.
within the ladder you were saying that.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
And then territories, their account or customer, so if one technician's been to that particular customer, they try to send the same tech back out to the same account or customer again if they have repeat business.
And then the technicians come from their homes, so if you live in St. Cloud and a customer comes in from St. Cloud, we send that tech, not the tech from Orlando.
Good.
So for quotas, this is part of their bonus plan, so this is what we're saying, the 5,000 plus you get bonuses. It's done week by week, so if you make it 1 week, you get 25, then 50, then 75, then 100. If you make it a 5th week, you get 25. It doesn't keep going.
So if they make 5,000 in revenue, right?
In sales.
In sales, same thing, sales are, so make sure you mention that, right? So quotas based on sales.
Okay.
Right? Or revenue, whatever word you want to use, right? If you make 5,000 1 week, then you get 25, 2, 3, and then, yeah, you got it. So another way to do this would be think of how we talked about the incentives with a graph and then with a bonus. And then the graph continues, right? So this is a perfect plan. So wage is 0, right? So how would you start that? You would start it off as this. So that would be like a perfect graph for you guys. And for others who are thinking that way, right? So I don't know if you can see this. Can you flip the guy down? These things. So you have revenue, right? And then here you have payout. So if you're starting from 0, which is there's no base pay. If there's a base pay, then you start from somewhere here. If there's no base pay, then you start from here, right? There's your bonus. And whatever that amount is, it's a limited amount, it's a very small amount, so that this bar will be small, right? And then you basically make sure this slope and this slope, they are the same. Right? And this basically would be your bonus. So add that in your slide, and then, yeah, that now you're showing what you learned in the class. Make sense? Very good.
Now, some compensation plans for in the office. The full-time employees, which currently there's only 3, they get 30K to 40K a year. The customer service representatives, which are part-time employees, get 29 to 30 a year. For more incentives and awards, the service technician, just like SafeLight, it is it can be seasonal, but luckily with electricity, people want it all year round anyways, but we have different incentive plans. So during the spring and the summer, everyone's preparing for storm season, so surge protectors are the biggest thing we sell. There's incentive plans for how many surge protectors the technicians sell. If you sell the most, you get 50. Every 10 you sell, even if you're the most or not the most, you still get $10. Every 20 you sell, you get $20. In the fall and the winter, people are still preparing for storms, but they're like the slackers that prepare, like when they're going to the stores the day of the hurricane. Transfer switches and generators, the person that sells the most in 4 months is $50. That's a new thing, so that's still. For the office, that should just say office employees. If your name gets mentioned in a customer survey, so we do happy calls, she mentioned it earlier, where we call the customers and we ask them if they would take 5 minutes of their time to do a review on how the technician did. If your name gets mentioned in those surveys, then you get $25. And then the managers check the recording of that phone call to make sure you didn't just write that you got your name said, they actually said it. And then for all employees, if you get a referral in sales, so for example, I referred a commercial department, a Pet Boys needed a renovation. I was driving by, they got hit by like lightning or something, and I gave them a card, and now I'm getting a referral from it. So you get 5% of the total job sales. So let's say the job was $5,000, I get $250 in my pocket. And then as an employee, if you use services of the company, you get discounts. You pay cost, you pay at cost. He never charges you extra.
And then so, some of our suggestions, and I think we have more now talking. Clear incentive plan, it's kind of unclear, a little bit, some of them. And then we think they could do better KPIs and generate more geared to generate revenues. So we were suggesting improving their conversion factor, with, profit margin. And then upselling, trying to upsell anything they may see while they're out on the job and convert those, into more sales. And then, profit margin.
And then we chose All-Star because we heard everyone doing bigger companies, and we kind of wanted to see what it was like with a smaller company, kind of like with our Safe Flight. And then I worked there, and then it is straight commission with no base salary, so we wanted to see how that works compared to. That's it.
All right, good job.